Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Grace Hatfield from EHS Daily Advisor, and thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Faces of EHS. This is a segment where we feature environmental health and safety professionals and highlight their journeys and hear their thoughts about EHS trends and issues. Today, we are joined by Katrina Fenimore, who is the Occupational Safety and Health Coordinator for the Association of Washington Cities. So, hi, Katrina, how are you today?
Hi, I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. So, can you tell us a little bit about your position at at the Association of Washington Cities, and what you guys do as an organization?
AWC is generally the acronym that we use for the Association of Washington Cities. We are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, and part of my job is traveling across the state to. We have 281 cities all across the state, and we are one of the few organizations that has 100% voluntary membership. And within that is our retro program, and 130 different cities, special districts, counties all have paid an extra service fee for me to come out and help them with their safety program. A lot of them are smaller cities or smaller entities that may need help. It's mainly just HR programs or HR coordinators that need help with safety when it comes to that. So I do on-site consultations and follow-up reports, any safety questions that they might have. At all when it comes to keeping city and state workers safe. That's what I'm here for.
Awesome. So, let's jump right into it. How did you get your start in EHS?
You know, I was pretty lost in life. I had two bachelor's degrees prior to in psychology and criminal justice. I thought I wanted to be a forensic psychologist when I grew up. And I went to college the first time. And at the very end, I took a quarter on just that, on forensic psychology, and realized that both the prosecution and the defense would question my credibility to do my job day in and day
Mhm.
out. And that was just a bit too much for me. So I was a little bit lost. And then my mom, who works at a university, had a coworker who was leaving her position to go teach and told me about the safety profession. So I looked into it and I really wanted to make sure that I wasn't making the same mistake twice. I did a lot of research about the safety profession and how it was constantly growing and how, the wages were great and there was all kinds of different benefits that came with it. And I felt like it would be a great fit for me because I've always wanted to help people. And so I applied and quit my job and moved across the state. And that was September of 2019. So little did I know that I moved across the state 5 months later to go to school online primarily.
Yeah.
But that's how I got my start in safety. And honestly, it's been a great challenge ever since.
For sure, yeah. You kind of hopped in right before the biggest safety event the world has ever seen.
Exactly,
So,
exactly. It's been
yeah.
good.
Yeah, good. So who's been your biggest influence in the industry?
That would be that professor. Her name is Jennifer Cernay, and she
Mhm.
currently is a professor at Central Washington University, where I graduated from. And she's just one cool, interesting person. She has all kinds of stories. She performs accident investigations herself. She knows a lot of industry people and herself too. So it's been really neat to be able to just get to know her a little bit more throughout my courses and also get to um, network with other people too. Allison Short has been just someone that I look up to as well. There's a few other people too that I've recently met in the last year, and it's just been such a wonderful experience.
Awesome. So, what's your best mistake and what did you learn from it?
Ooh, that is a good one. My best mistake would definitely be trying to inform someone of the answers when I don't quite know them myself. And that's a mistake that I've learned earlier on in life too. And I think it's important to admit what you don't know, especially when it comes to safety. You want to be honest and frank with them that you don't know that. But the nice part about safety is there's all kinds of industry experts, so you can always find the resources to get the answer. And
Mhm.
when it comes to safety, most people aren't afraid to share those answers because it's not a secret to safety. We should be willing to help others be safe on the job as well. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So, what's your favorite and least favorite part about working in EHS, and would you change anything?
That's another good one too. My favorite part, obviously, is being able to just communicate and get to know people. It's all about getting to know, who they are as people and who's in their back seat. I like to say that I've learned that before. If you get to know someone and who rides in their back seat of their car, generally that means that you know them a little bit more on a personal level, and they're more likely to be invested in safety. And that's one of my favorite things about safety. But some of the things that aren't my particular favorites are coming back and writing reports, having to
Mhm.
read through all of the safety manuals. Not necessarily my favorite thing, but it is a necessary thing to do. And also, I learned some more things and some key components about different cities' safety manuals that are more in depth than others, and that's really neat to take all of those pieces from different safety manuals and just make an overall template even better.
Mhm. Yeah, so just out of curiosity, how different is each city's safety manual or policy?
Oh man, they're vastly different. I
Really?
never expected that going into this position, but you get towns who, sometimes they only have a population of a couple hundred, and then you
Mhm.
get cities that, have a few thousand, half a million people, and within that there are different departments and different people that come along with it. So it can be about as slim as, a few pages to I've recently saw I saw a safety manual that was over 300 pages long.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's definitely varies, and I learn a lot every time I get to read through them too, for sure.
Interesting, yeah. So what are your thoughts on safety culture, and how can company leaders make safety a value within their organizations?
That's another great question. So one of the biggest things, like I said, is getting to know that person who rides in your backseat every day. If you're driving in your car to work, who rides in the back seat? Do you have a child that rides with you on your way to work that you drop off? Do you have a dog that you take to daycare? As management or even just stakeholders themselves, you want to get to know those people who are in your employees' back seats, because
Mhm.
that really gets them invested in putting the effort into safety. At the end of the day, is getting to know each other and getting to have that interpersonal relationship. And I think that is one of the key components of safety culture, is having that human element of it too. It can't be just, telling people, oh, you got to be safe. That
Mhm.
yes, that's the given, but at the same time they're not likely to buy into the safety culture as much if they don't know why or have that professional personal element to it back and forth.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's all about finding the good motivations for people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, what safety concerns or issues do you think need more prioritization in EHS programs?
I'm a huge advocate for mental health.
Mhm.
I actually recently learned a year and a half ago that I am autistic. So
Mm.
being a female autistic person is a little bit less normal, I guess, a little bit more
Mhm.
rare in terms of it. But I think out of the pandemic, it's been a great strong suit, is that mental health is becoming more prioritized. So I think we're on the right track, but I think that there's also some ways to go when it comes to mental health and making sure that the psychological component is good with it as well.
For sure. What are some of those ways? Because, like you said, mental health, especially after COVID, is becoming increasingly important. And obviously, when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, we have to have a space for people who are neurodivergent. So, what are some of those ways that companies can make it a safer space?
Yeah, sometimes it's just things as simple as providing alternative lighting. So sometimes
Mm.
the overhead lighting can be a lot for people. Um,
Mhm.
Encouraging people to have sick days. Our CEO, Deanna Dawson, is excellent. She's great. We had an all staff meeting a few months ago, and the very first thing, she encouraged everybody to take your sick day if you need to for Mental Health Day. And I think that is very important. I used to work at a corporation who, when you called out, it was everybody else kind of moaned and groaned because all the tasks were on them for that day if you did. But I
Mhm.
think that structure needs to be rearranged, because it's just as important to take care of you, because you're one of the greatest assets to the company when it comes down to it. Those two things are a great start, but also just listening to what people have to say or different suggestions that they might have, because sometimes people come up with the greatest ideas that you would have never even thought. So I think having a great set of hearing skills is one of the very first points for starting out on that.
Absolutely, yeah. So, what will be the impact of environmental, social, and governance principles on the EHS industry?
I think it's already impacting quite a bit, especially in light of the pandemic. There's a lot more governance that is going into to safety in general.
Mhm.
Um, I think people are realizing just how important safety is, and hopefully that trend continues. I think that we are headed on a great path, but I think there's more potential for the impact to become greater through talking about safety, continuing the discussion with safety, and once again, just listening too.
Absolutely. So, how will new safety technologies influence the work being done by EHS professionals?
Yeah, technology is an ever evolving thing.
Mhm.
It's important that we recognize that with that there'll come some challenges, but I think that technology will help influence it in a better way to help understand why humans do what they do, and maybe to help prevent some musculoskeletal injuries and different injuries in general. It's
Mhm.
important that we continue to look at the technology as it develops and think, how can we benefit from it? How can we can make it towards working for a safer environment?
For sure. So, to pivot back to you personally, what are you most proud of?
You know, I think probably surviving the pandemic in school, and working two jobs, and I think that was one of the biggest points for me during my first round in school. I worked two jobs, 60 hours a week, and I definitely got burnt out. But
Mhm.
the most isolating part for me was moving, quitting my job, moving across the state, and having the world shut down 5 months later, and going to school completely online when my plan was to go to school in person. I spent
Mhm.
the majority of my schooling online, and that was a totally different experience than just going to school online prior to the pandemic. Luckily, I had professors who were very graceful in everything that happened, and we were still able to accomplish things together. But working through that was a whole nother game, and it really made me proud to achieve the things that I have. But I'm also excited to see what kind of things I can achieve in the future too.
For sure. Yeah, I finished the last year and a half of school in the pandemic as well,
Oh,
so I completely feel you on that
it's
one.
brutal. It really is.
It really is. Yeah, it was. So do you have any advice for people entering EHS?
Don't be afraid to admit what you don't know. I have been one of those people my entire life that has thought that, in the safety profession, you need to know it all right there and then. And quite frankly, you're never going to. There's always going to be someone that knows more than you, so don't be afraid to ask them. Don't be afraid to befriend them, to connect with them, because somebody is always going to have more information than you, and sucking it up like a sponge will just make it that much better for you. And it's okay to ask for help at the end of the day, regardless of whether it's just about safety or about your personal life. Don't be afraid to ask for help in general.
For sure. Well, great. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm really grateful to have met you and heard everything you have to say. And I'm sure our audience is going to love hearing all of your insights.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me too. I really appreciate your time.
Of course. Thank you.